And all the shows that we did, there would always be Sony reps that would hang out after the shows. And I'd always ask him, any contact with Jeff. And finally, someone came through and got him VIP tickets to the show and VIP parking. And we were playing at Wembley Stadium, and two opening acts went on, and I was so excited. And then Michael canceled the show.
Oh,
And I thought, no, no, of all the days of my life, you do not cancel tonight.
yeah.
So I thought he was still in the VIP tent, and you got 80,000 people pissed off, crying kids leaving, coming out the exits, and these people are coming this way, and I'm going across them with my hair 3 feet
Because the
high,
crowd, oh my God.
which was really dangerous.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, I'm not going to miss this chance. And I got to the VIP tent, and it turns out he never made it in because he came at the last minute.
Okay.
So I called him up the next day and said, man, I don't know when or if they're going to make up the show, but can I meet you anyway? And he said, sure. So I went to the studio he was working at the next day, I think. Townhouse Studios in London. He was recording his rockabilly record. And I went in and I heard some stuff he was doing and recorded a little bit. And during a break, I got out my old school video camera because it was long before the smartphone. And I remember I asked him to play Blue Wind because I had learned every solo that he did on Blow by Blow and Wired CDs.
Okay.
And it just, of course, my batteries were not charged like a dumbass. So I get to about 10 seconds and then it's gone. And then I grabbed the spare battery and that wasn't charged either. So it was hopeless. But in those 10 seconds, I saw the nuance that he did. And even though I was playing the same notes, I wasn't playing it the way he was playing it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's the sound. Oh, Jesus. These half-step bends.
Yeah.
They're just gorgeous. And then we had a break and ended up talking for the better part of an hour. And it was kind of bizarre because although I knew his music so well, I didn't know him as a person.
Yeah.
And it was before the internet, so it's not like you could look up every detail of somebody. In fact, I used to hang out in a boutique record shop that used to bring in English magazines.
Okay.
And I would go through the magazines for anything on Jeff for hours. It was super obsessed. And luckily I had a couple friends with me, so they helped keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
And then he drove me back to my hotel in his Corvette, which it's like Batman. He's got 500 yards free. He's just like, oh man, if I'm going to die in a fiery car crash, this is the way to go.
Yeah.
We're so rock and roll. So he dropped me off and I thought I'd never see him again. And then he called a couple months later. I had given him a copy of a video that I did to Flight of the Bumblebee. They were covered with live bees. And my first CD that had just come out. And he called me up, I don't know, a month later or something, and said, I finally had a chance to listen to your record and let's record together.
Wow.
I know. I didn't see that coming.
Oh, wow. Yes, yes, yes.
And in fact, it was 5 years later that we got together. And he had done a couple tours in the meantime.
Okay.
And I would see him during the tours. And he'd always say, we're going to do this thing together. And I go, okay. It's just because I'm in your face, you're saying that.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of anxiety thinking about that. And he finally called, said, I have a tour of Italy. Come over, let's do it. And I thought, you're nuts. Because we'd never played together. And by then he was, that was after the Dangerous tour.
Okay.
And by then I had 2 records. So I gave him my second record too. And I had a session in Milan and I flew over and then I booked myself down to London.
Okay.
And went to his house and I had learned most of the Guitar Shop record. And I just wanted to play it in his presence just to make sure he wasn't crazy. I didn't tell anybody I was up for the gig.
Yeah.
And his wife pulled out the whiskey about midnight and I had a flight the next day and it was just like, I'm not going to drink because here I am with Jeff Beck. All right, come on.
Of course. Yeah.
So the next day wasn't pretty.
Yeah, but it was a once in a lifetime
Absolutely.
opportunity, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my
It was super fun. And I used to say it was like Hansel and Gretel with him and his wife in this three-story 14th century mansion. It was just bonkers, just bonkers. And then the next step was he had rented a rehearsal hall in New York and had
Okay.
the original band was supposed to be Tony Levin on bass and Terry Bozzio.
Oh, wow.
And I walked in and there was no keyboard player. I
Okay.
thought, am I it? You know? And he was totally cool to have me play guitar. He was just always looking for something different and new.
Yeah.
I thought, this ain't gonna cut it. So I had a trip to Frankfurt for the Frankfurt Music Mesa.
Hmm.
And I ended up walking out of there with an endorsement from a company called Axon that had a guitar synthesizer.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be the fastest triggering synthesizer at the time.
Yeah.
But the sounds were not great. And so I got Roland 1080 modules long before everything was in a laptop.
Yeah.
And it sounded good, but the triggering, the two companies didn't talk to each other well.
Oh,
So like a week before we took off, I ended up with all Roland gear because it was reliable. It was slower, but it was reliable.
okay.
So probably a good 75-80% of the show, I triggered synthesizer pads.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I never would have put in that kind of energy if it wasn't for Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm like, this has to happen. So
That's
I'm
right.
digging in manuals, and I had a tech helping me.
Wow.
It was so much gear to travel with. I mean, not that
And
I
so
had
much
to touch it.
responsibility, of course. I mean, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was your name on the line, right? You had to
Yeah.
trigger all
I mean,
those sounds, right?
you think about with Michael Jackson, there was two guitar players, two keyboard players, bass drums.
Yeah.
If I made a mistake, it's not, nobody's gonna trip up,
Yeah.
you know. But when I am the harmony,
That's
it
right.
is a lot more responsibility.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So it was great. I learned so much from just being with him.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we didn't ever sit down and go, "What do you think of this lick? What would you play over a D7 sharp 11?" You know, it wasn't ever like that.
Yeah.
Occasionally he'd show me something cool, but it was just observing.
Got it.
That was the